Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you. Access knowledge about the latest policy trends. Discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe. Find solutions in our peer review. Get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our policy learning journey dedicated to cultural and creative industries. Following a webinar, we had it's the second of a mini webinar series. We had another event last week. Maybe some of you have already attended this one, I can remember. Today we will have more the social aspect and the sustainable aspect of the cultural and creative industry, whether last week we were more dealing with digital and a little bit green. My name is Luc Schmerber. I'm a thematic expert from for SME competitiveness for the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, and I will be your host today with my colleague Mart. Mart will show up probably just in a second.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, Mart. Thank you for joining me. So Mart will help me also with the questions and the moderation and looking at your questions in the chat. And we have Lotte on the technical side who will help us in case of any problems. Hello, Lotte. So in case of technical issues, you can also send an email message via chat to Lotte. She is under the name Policy Learning Platform, and he might help. So, and we will introduce our speakers for today later on. I will just start with a short introduction to the topic and also a reminder on the technical aspect. So the duration of the meeting is about 90 minutes. You will have access within a week, more or less, after the event to the recording of the webinar, as well as the presentations from the Interreg Europe website. So you will be informed also by us when this will be out. And during the event, you have the possibility to interact through the chat with us during the whole time. So for instance, you can submit your questions for the speakers through the chat, and we will read them out loud whenever needed. And you can so you don't have to wait until the speakers have finished to speak. You can write your questions. We'll follow that, and after each presentation, so we will have time for questions, so obviously. And if we cannot answer all the questions during the meeting, then we'll come back to you after the email, via email, and possibly also with by putting you in connections more bilaterally with the speaker as needed. So that's how it works. A short presentation to introduce us to the event for today from my side. So working on the sustainable and social impact of the cultural and creative industries. Why we are tackling these topics? Generally speaking, we have a high interest within the Interreg Europe community for cultural and creative industries. It was a popular topic among our projects, and it was also, or it is regularly a popular topic within the surveys we make for the topics that people want to address. And we have many projects, and we will have new projects in the new period. But more importantly, also newly, it is high on the European policy agenda. For instance, within Interreg Europe, we have in this programming period Policy Objective 4, a more social Europe, and Policy Objective 5, a Europe closer to citizens, which are both relevant to some extent, not only, but to some extent to the cultural and creative industries, and where it is expected that they will provide an impact. So I will not read it out loud. You probably, some of you know those policies, and you can see them on the program and on the website. But definitely the scope of the cultural and creative industries in the new program has been extended. Also on the European level, we have the newly created EIT Culture and Creativity. And last week we had Christina Koch presenting what will be the activities under this innovation community, focusing on the digital, green, and social transformation, making very clear that the cultural and creative industries have a role to play in those three aspects, and especially to values-based cultural entrepreneurship. And we have also had some time ago, it was in September last year, an webinar on Industry 5.0, the new paradigm for industry, following Industry 4.0, making it more human-centric, sustainable, and resilient, and also making a clear focus not only on the digital technologies like it was with 4.0, but on the increased importance of creativity. So we are clearly addressing here a topic which is highly relevant to the smart and competitiveness community. How we will deal with that today, what will we hear? We will have first a keynote from one of our longtime partner, also project partner, and a speaker in our events, Rasmus from the Creative Business Network, which will speak about the impact of technology on cultural and creative industry sustainable solutions. Both top-down and bottom-up, and then we have an open panel discussions with our speakers. We will introduce them at that stage, Andrea, Chiara, and Federica. And after this discussion, we will have examples from Valletta and from Veneto, and more specifically Padova, with their the outputs of their projects, Design for Innovation and Create. But this is what we will hear today. And before we go with Rasmus for the first presentation, we would just like to have a short poll. Yeah, you can read the question. Have you already been involved in Europe projects? We try to know a bit who is attending our events, where the people come from in terms of the projects, to see how new you are or not. And I would also invite you, well, we let you answer, like some people have done already in the chat, to mention from where you come from, for instance, so that we have a bit of life also in the chat. I've seen Ivano, Mara, and some others that are already doing that. And now we see it still moving a bit on I think the poll, the answers are not moving anymore. So we see we have quite a large part, 40% of the participants today who are not have not been involved or not currently submitting a proposal. So newcomers in terms of projects. So at the end of the event, I will give you a few information on the second call for proposal for new Interact Europe project. So there might be something there which is useful for you at this stage, and you will also obviously have this information also available in the learnings from the event next week. So having said that, I will give the word to our keynote speaker, to Rasmus, who will introduce us to the topic.
Thank you, Luc.
Different angles. Rasmus, go on, please.
Just go ahead. Excellent. Cool. I don't have a presentation, but I will give you some examples along the way. And as Luc already alluded to, I will first start with some top-down, actually some cases of where I see creatives making an impact on a social or a sustainable level. And then I will end up, I have 15 minutes, with talking a bit about policy and some of the wider things. As Luc mentioned, I am the CEO and founder of the Creative Business Network. I was also part of the Regional Creative Industries Alliance, where we did a lot of policy workshops in 8 regions around Europe related to the culture and creative industries. And also I was appointed by the Commission to be head of the ECIA back in 2012, the European Creative Industries Alliance. So that was a lot about policy, top-down, what policymakers can do. So on one hand, in my daily practice, I run a network for creatives and for their stakeholders, investors, etc. And then I have been involved in a lot of policy-related top-down issues. So it started actually 10 years ago in 2012. We said, what if we take these creative skills, the creative skill set that people have, or artistic skill sets, and try to pair them with entrepreneurial skills, which is a different set of skills. And that's why we came up with what is called the Creative Business Cup. We actually started out as a competition for creatives that wanted to gain entrepreneurial skills. And I will show you some examples of entrepreneurs, SMEs that have participated over the years in this Creative Business Cup. So 10 years so far, 11th year, the 5th of June is the next global finals. And if you are interested, you can also participate with creatives in those finals. And we also quickly discovered that this was much more about what do the creatives need in terms of entrepreneurial skills. It became much more, how can the creatives contribute to other sectors in terms of, food, regional development, an important issue like health or mental health. We, together with WHO, published a report in November 2019, just before the pandemic, on how creatives and artists can contribute to, for example, mental health among youth and children. So it became much more about cross-sector innovation, how creatives can take their skills into other sectors. But let me get to the cases now. And for that, I will share my screen. I will also share the links later on in the chat. So first of all, here you see an overview of the last 2020, 2021. We also have 2022, but here you see the winner from Estonia in 2020 called Raiku, I'm going to tell you about. Also Songpark from Sweden, Fodio from Chile, etc. So let's start out. So this is what was called Safari Seat. Now it's called the Accessibility Institute. It's actually a design company that is working on how to make very simple mobility equipment for people. Here you can see, especially in Kenya. And it's not just about making people mobile, but it's also about giving them a job. Actually working with local stakeholders on how to empower these people that have been, supposed to stay at home, but now they can actually go out and work. In 2020, the winner was from Estonia, and that was Raiku. Raiku is actually has the ambition of replacing bubble wrap and all kinds of plastic wrapping with this sustainable product. It's actually made out of wood. And as you can see, it is not only beautiful, but it's something that you can actually drop in nature, and it won't actually do any harm if you do so, because it's made out of wood. Raiku, fantastic startup from with designers and engineers from Estonia. Yeah. Then we also had in 2022 a startup from the Czech Republic, My Cello, that works with 3D printing and makes cellos, fantastic instruments that you can actually play on, and also play on when you're not good at playing on it, so that you can keep it silent for the rest, and then also put it on when someone needs to hear it. So that was, I think they came third in 2022. Another one here that I really like from 2016, I believe it was, from Germany, Buzzard. So they are trying to make sure that we all get a doses of different perspectives. Isn't that something that seems really relevant these days? I really think that on one hand, technology has given us more diversity, and we can watch TV programs and we can watch stories from around the world. Yesterday evening, I watched this fantastic love story of a Brazilian lesbian couple that had been together for 43 years living in the favela. I wouldn't have been able to watch that unless we had the technology and the platforms that was able to show this for me. On the other hand, it also shows sometimes less diversity that can go in both directions, actually. And Buzzard, our startup from Germany, actually was countering that. Then we have a good example here of Exonicos. Exonicos, he's actually an artist educated from the Riga Arts Academy, who took his skills, his artistic skills of space, and said, why don't I apply that to a trauma simulator? In other words, how can I best make simulations of space and movement in such a trauma simulator? In other words, you can learn how to stop a bleeding, to save lives, without actually going to medical school, but you can learn it by using these simulators. And they're actually very successful, again, taking his artistic skill as a sculptor and bringing them into this startup. Then it was always a standing joke that Creative Business Cup was the only competition that Danish startups cannot win, because you know how it is in the Nordic countries, we have the Jante law and we're supposed to be modest, etc. And I was never in the jury, but in 2019, Lapi won. Lapi is a startup that actually creates mobile urinals for women. In other words, when women participate in festivals, in marathons, sports events, etc., and they need to pee, they don't have to stand in line forever like they usually do. They can actually just use this female urinal. And I think this is a fantastic product, not just because it's Danish, but it's also something that has been overlooked. We have solutions for men. We don't have solutions for women. And what I think is interesting about this startup is also that they both have an industrial design protection, they have a patent, and they also have a brand protection. In other words, they know about IP. And I think that's one of the, when we talk about policies later on, is one of the big issues. Then I like Voiceit from Israel. They participated back in 2014. If you have had an accident, or if you were born with a speech impediment and you can't say, I love you, or I am hungry, then this app will actually kind of be like a Google Translate. It will calibrate, and it will slowly over time understand that you're trying to say I love you, or you're trying to say I'm hungry, and then translate it to the ones that you love, or to the ones that feed you. We had in 2013 from Italy, Orange Fiber. They actually take the waste product from the orange juice production and make it into a sustainable product textile. We had several of those since. Alga Life from Israel, Red Button from Nigeria, working on different kind of products to make sustainable fabrics. So this was Italy 2013. The winner in 2022 was from Austria with Plasticpreneur. This is a way how you can teach people, kids, youth, adults, on recycling plastic, making different molds, designs, etc. They had a really good, convincing presentation at the global finals. We often talk about how the creatives are the ones that will keep their jobs. Actually, it's the best. If you're a parent these days, you should actually make sure that your kids go into a creative field, because even lawyers will be replaced by AI and robots, but creativity will have a difficult or a hard time being replaced. there will be some jobs in the creative sector that will be maybe digitized. For example, we have Caspar. This is a startup that, if you don't know, but usually when you make a 2-hour movie, you end up with 10,000 hours of different footage. That some is good, some is bad. And then you have people sitting there logging it. It's quite boring jobs to sit and log all the different scenes and make sure that you have everything in, so that later on you can actually put it together, take the 10,000 hours and make it into a 2-hour or a 1-hour documentary. And they actually use AI to take care of these tedious tasks of being, and then allowing you to be more creative. So that's an example of how digitization that you spoke about last week can actually do more than just be a matter of CRM systems and platforms and promotion, but it's actually part of a more efficient production. Imagine if you could get your movie out much faster. And then here at the end, I have Skip It, a startup that again uses technology and try to make a more sustainable way to travel. It will help you to travel locally if you're traveling. In other words, don't take a taxi, use Skip It. Let me stop sharing here. So my points with these different examples, and there are thousands more because, you know, it's been 10 years and every year we had between 3,000 and 7,000 applicants from around the world. And I only saw the top 100 or so every year. It was really, has really been a fantastic journey to see all these examples of creatives wanting to do good, wanting to change the established conditions around the world. And then luckily, I've also had the opportunity to work in these different, as I mentioned in the beginning, ways of helping out. Because what characterizes many of these creative startups and SMEs, they are, you know, they're more international usually. They have, their business could be applied anywhere. Plasticpreneur, Lapi, whatever. There's no global boundaries, really. So internationalization is a big issue that we all need to work on. Making markets accessible, because it's expensive. And that's another thing. Access to finance is usually more difficult. If you have an idea that's a design, it's even more difficult if you have an idea that's a story or a universe, like Pippi Longstocking or Pippi Brandacier, I think she's called in French. You have this idea for this rebellious girl that will go out and be against all the adults and can carry a horse on her back. These kind of role models, I think we need more of. We've seen enough of the Powerpuff Girls. We need some more European role models in the universes, and those are difficult to invest in because you don't know if they will take off. Then also business development is usually difficult because entrepreneurial skills and creativity are not necessarily being taught, but it could also be because it's in difficult sectors. I'm glad I'm not in fashion because it's difficult to predict what people want to wear and wants to use. It's the double unknown in the creative industries. So yes, we're getting close to the end, and I just want to let's see. I think I have to remove the blur. Give me just a second.
You have a few minutes left, Rasmus.
Yeah. So I want to say that it was just announced in 15th of January or so that together with a consortium, we have won something called EQIP. Well, let's see here. EQIP is the European Cultural and Creative Industries Policy Platform. So for the next 3.5 years, we will gather all the stakeholders in all EU countries and all associate countries. So we're about 42, 43 countries at this point, that in all sectors, and trying to tackle the different policy challenges or different challenges that policy can solve. And we will debate that in our online community and in events, etc. And if you want to know where that is happening, it's happening at cbnet.com. And there's a button up in the corner up there where it says community. So join there, and then you can be part of that. So this is just a few things that will be happening in the future. Of course, there are lots of people working on policy, including this fantastic Interreg Europe policy learning platform that we have here. So thanks a lot for listening, and I'm looking forward to your questions and the panel.
Yeah, Rasmus, thank you. I have a first question. As you mentioned, the EQIP, which is also sounds like a nice French name. I'm French. I like it's the word team for it's team in French called EQIP. Yes,
also in Turkish.
Also in Turkish. Okay. And well, how do you differ from the EIT? We mentioned the EIT, and many people were interested in that. What will be the difference or the synergies, or well, whatever the way you want to look at
well,
it?
The way I see it is that the EIT is supposed to deliver new products and new services to the citizens and the companies of Europe. They are an innovation program that needs to bring us new content, new models, new ways of business models for the creative industries and the cultural industries. So they are very much in the market business world. How can we compete with the US and China and India, etc., in the CCIs? Whereas EQIP is, first of all, a much smaller budget, but what we are supposed to come up with policy recommendations to the European Commission and the member states and the regions and the cities. In other words, it's much more focused on what market failures are there, what instruments should be applied, what new, maybe even, should the Interreg program take more into consideration certain things and then other, and etc. So it's really more like a support. It's called a coordination and support action for the Commission than it is for market delivery, EIT.
Okay, and it's open to any kind of stakeholders, I guess. Or...
Oh yeah. Any country, any sector.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Just for clarifying this, Mart, do you see first questions? Do you have questions for?
Yeah, I would once again encourage the audience to write directly into the chat. So into the chat for everyone. Maybe that should be clarified as well. That don't write directly to the speakers, but to all, and then we can read out your answers. But I actually, Rasmus, thank you for the presentation. I'm curious about when you worked with these creative businesses that you showcased. How do they usually see themselves? Do they see themselves as a creative business or a social business? And why I ask this is that I've been working recently more with the social economy and with social business models. And often you meet very exciting startups and SMEs who don't call themselves a social business, but if you apply a framework on them, then but you are a social business. So I'm just curious, seeing these creative businesses that you have showcased, many of them I would also call a social enterprise, for example. So I'm just curious, how have you seen them identifying themselves? Do they use these labels of social and impact and measuring their impact? I don't know, referencing SDGs. So just some reflections on how from your side on this.
I think of course I chose some cases that would be relevant for social impact. Otherwise I would have been off the agenda here. But I think in general, the SME and startups, like many people, don't like or don't. It's not that they don't like, but they don't know these labels. They would hardly know that they are in the cultural and creative industries. Some of them might say they're in this experience economy. Some will say they're in tourism. Some will say they're in the event business. And I think it's the same. Many of them will not also. They wouldn't characterize themselves as social. The Safari seat that clearly has a social impact. They're a design company that wants to do good, and that may be translated into some of the dangers. Is that if we label too much, and if we also ask for statistics that follows these labeling, we might miss some good opportunities. We might miss some points. We might not. Investors might not be interested if it's a social company. Can it really be valuable? Yes, it can. It can really. There can be actual return on investment.
Yeah, thanks, Rasmus.
I can maybe add that I think one of the things that policies in the future should look at the CCIs as instrument for foreign policy, for education, health that I also talked about, the WHO, that really that it's not isolated to the cultural ministries or the ministries of enterprise, but it really is something much broader in many ways.
Yeah, it seems like it's a bit like the digital perspective. It should not be a silo.
It's very horizontal. It's very horizontal.
It should be, yeah, okay, yeah, very, very horizontal. Thank you, Rasmus. Let's see if we have another question. So I think we don't see questions right now from the audience. Yeah, I've seen maybe one question, but we might come back after shortly. No, I keep it for afterwards for the panel. So let's move to the panel discussions slowly. For the panel discussion, I would ask our other speakers, Andrea, Chiara, and Federica, to show up and to turn on their cameras. I see Andrea. Maybe you can already introduce yourself shortly.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrea Stegani. I'm calling from Malta, from the Valletta Design Cluster. Yeah, I'm happy to be here today. And you'll hear more about my project a bit later on.
Thank you, Andrea. Chiara, maybe you can see you.
Hello, it's Chiara Rossetto from Veneto Region Brussels office. I was the CalCreate project manager, and I will present our pilot action on culture and musical itinerary in Padova.
Thank you. Federica, you're also with us from Padova directly, I think.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm a project officer at ETIFOR, so we collaborated with the Veneto region to the CalCreate project, and particularly the we're going to present today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know we have also in the audience, we have Mara Tonyan from the Veneto region. Chiara suggested that she might join the panel, so Mara, if you want to join the panel, you are very welcome to. But to do that, you need to raise your hand using the button at the bottom of your screen, the Zoom, so that the Lotte can give you the right to speak. Okay. And before we start the panel, we have a second question, second poll, which will also be the first question for the panel, which is about the challenges faced by cultural and creative industries, or in terms of achieving positive social impact. Maybe you can take a few seconds just to provide an answer if you feel like you have one. Just letting. So let's see if it still moves. Yeah, still some people answering. So no, it stays stable. So I think we can show the. I don't know. Does everybody see the results on the screen right now? Yeah, I think so. So you can see that. So you see that the number one is lack of funding and investments, and then come the topic of investments, followed by competitions for resources, diverse stakeholders, and everybody was, at least the participant today, was able to find an answer within this list. So I'm turning now to our panelists to see maybe how you do see that from your local experience, and Rasmus has a more global perspective. Rasmus, maybe you can start with your global perspective, so it gives everybody some, because you mentioned that everybody starts some time to think about their input.
The global perspective of the creative industries? Yes.
What do you see the main challenges? You mentioned, I think, the funding. You mentioned internationalization. You mentioned skills.
I think that I don't, it depends on what level and we're talking about, but I see that the creative industries have a great potential for connecting and for identity building and for diversity, inclusion, understanding, acceptance, and can really open the minds of people. On one hand, we see that happening, but also on the other hand, we see it going in the different direction. We see people that have a completely different view of the world, that find it acceptable to invade another country and bomb its citizens. We find it. We find members of the House of Lords in the UK that will not shake hands with a man that has been ordained by a woman. So we see a lot of closed minds in the world. But luckily, I think the CCIs have this force for open-mindedness and for helping people really connect and understand. And for the first time, thanks to technologies, really on a global scale, really on a much more interactive scale that we haven't seen before. I have people here in my household that are gaming with people from all over the world, and a lot of listening to music from all sides of the world. It really is encouraging that development.
Thank you, Rasmus. So turning to Andrea in Malta, Andrea, how do you see it locally about those challenges?
I don't know if this is a local perspective that I'm going to give, but I was reflecting mainly on the lack of funds option that you mentioned there, and also diverse stakeholders. Rather than lack of funds, I think that most of the times people and practitioners and entities maybe are not aware of the funds that may be out there. Maybe they know a couple of them, but they don't know that maybe there can be an opportunity for them, that they can access relatively easily to support their project. And I think that a way to solve that possible issue is try to be in more and more networks, try to have a very varied pool of stakeholders and partners, which also in a way kind of links up to the other, one of the other options that you were giving in the poll, which is diverse stakeholders. I think that sometimes who your stakeholders are, but for specific initiatives, some entities may leave their target audience a bit too broad. Sometimes when talking with some practitioners, and they tell me, I don't know exactly who this event is for, maybe they have a vague idea, but they sometimes, or we sometimes, don't go too much into focus, I would say.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. And then turning to Veneto, and see, I don't know if Mara or Federica or yes, Mara raises her hand, so maybe Lotte, can you have her speak?
Yeah, thank you, Luc. Just a few words. With reference to the first challenge, the lack of funding, I think that it's a little bit provocatory, because there are a lot of funding in truth. The real problem is access to private funding, so to bank support, especially in Italy. We faced a lot of problem in the past when Creative Europe program tried to open a financial line with Italian bank. They didn't find any reply. On the other hand, there are a lot of funding in our policy, because as Rasmus explained before, culture and creativity is not only linked on culture itself, but we can find several different kinds of collaboration. So this is my opinion.
Okay, thank you for that. And checking the chat meanwhile, if there are questions to add to that.
If I may add something.
Yes, Chiara, sure.
With the pilot action, we basically address and tackle the the stakeholders diversity, because we noticed that we focus on music tourism, and so we met many different sectors acting on their own without any coordination, without any coordinated plan and connection, but without they were aware that of this lacking, but they didn't know how to tackle it. So I don't know if this is even a more local perspective, but in a nutshell, it was really difficult to have them all sitting on a table and discuss for a very, very simple, if you want, topic, but which is a music tour. So the stakeholders know the lacking of coordination, but they don't know how to tackle it.
Okay, very good point. So probably we need platforms like EQIP on all the levels for the policy learning platform. Okay, thank you for that. I would like to come back to a question which Rasmus started also to raise before, which is the potential of technology to leverage creative business models. I don't know if tech for good and is the word to be used, but Rasmus, you started to mention artificial intelligence and in another perspective, rather than to say that it's going to maybe in some other areas to suppress jobs, but how can it be leveraged? How can technology be leveraged for good by creative industry? Do you have some insights on this?
There are lots of ways, and I think actually the best way is to find the report that Technopolis Group has made on AI and the CCIs. Mm-hmm. They really categorize it in a very good way, how it's both about the things that we already know about, the long tail, the million mini markets. If you're interested in avant-garde Japanese pipe music, you can find that music, and you can also find an audience if you're playing pipe music in Japan. So there's the market access that technology provides, the promotional opportunities, but then comes how can the technology actually help with the creative process? How can it? And here, that's why I came in with Caspar AI, because that's an example of post-production. So it's not really of course, it's about selecting what you want in a movie, but you can also have AI that helps you select, come up with a list of potential actors, what music should be played, scenarios, etc. They can actually help you with that. The problem I still think we need to discover is whether AI will be able to come up with these surprises that we need, that the creativity provides. When we watch a movie or when we listen to some music and it does something to us that is new and exciting and surprising, will AI be able to do that, to come up with these things, or will it try to pick a list of actors that fit into, then this movie will be the most successful on a more broader basis. But I think there are lots of opportunities also in the creative process. But of course we have to look at that. We still need to find out how can we do glass blowing and ceramics without using a lot of energy. So there are still some stuff where technology, like the basis of what we do, is really, really difficult.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrea. Are you working with also locally with those aspects of creativity, the impact of technology in the creativity process?
I would say we are. So again, I don't want to disclose too much about the Valletta Design Cluster now, because I'm going to present it.
Correct.
But I will, linking up to what Rasmus was also saying, I think it's really interesting to see technology and digitization as a bridge between maybe more contemporary practices and the more traditional ones that can help us connect with, you know, the culture and the heritage we are linked to as people, you know, coming from a certain place. I was also reflecting about the link that there can be between practitioners and academics and researchers. So I think that there should be maybe a stronger link between these two categories, so that you know, maybe something that is researched can then be applied, you know, in businesses. I know that there are a lot of EU projects, including the Interreg Europe projects, that support this bridge between entities that are of different nature. So I think we are on the right path.
Thank you. So I'm turning to Veneto, Mara or Chiara, Federica.
I go first,
yeah.
If you okay,
go on.
Okay, perfect. Just an observation. What we noticed after the recent COVID pandemic is that artificial intelligence and new technologies are giving us unexpected products and service by cultural and creative service. We noticed that the cooperation between cultural and creative industries and the other kind of industries had an increasement thanks to this to the period, because the COVID pandemic represented a kind of opportunity to test them. And after this period, we are working. I give you the example of Veneto area, but I noticed that it's working in the same way also in other areas, European areas, that this cooperation are over and over increasing starting from that moment. So I think they could represent an unexpected opportunity more than we supposed in the past.
Okay, thank you. Good, interesting point of view. Chiara, do you want to comment on this? No? Okay. I have a last question for the panel. It relates also to one of the challenges we had. It's about measuring impact. Rasmus, you talk a lot about opportunities more. You have an entrepreneurial perspective, and you look at the opportunities. How important, or how do you think about measuring the social impact? Is it something important in your activities? Are businesses dealing with that? Do you see a need for that?
More and more, because companies know that if they need to be successful, they need to have an impact, and whether that is on health or on social issues, on whatever it is. So I think companies realize that just chasing money and trying to show up in the VAT statistics in a good way, it actually is better served at chasing the big whys. Why are we here? Why are we doing what we do? And I think there's a movement among the SMEs and the startups to not just embrace profit making, but embrace finding solutions to the world of all these problems that we're facing, and in the process end up making money. So of course that makes it difficult to measure, because
have you seen innovative ways to do that, or how companies deal with that? If with this?
Yeah, I mean, for companies themselves, they will of course do market research, assessments of impact, people reached, etc. For example, for the safari seat in Kenya, how many people have actually gotten a job? How many of them can actually feed their families? And that would be an impact to measure, but that will be difficult to hold up against the launch of the burkini that enables women of a certain faith to actually go to the beach. There are all these different social impacts that are not really comparative in a way.
Yeah, it's not easy. Andrea, are you dealing with that also in your initiative a bit with measuring the social impact?
Yeah, I very much believe in collecting data and then trying to analyze them, because I think that the more you know about your visitors, your customers, the people you interact with, the better product you can give them, or you can try to give, of course, if you have funds and if you have the capacity and resources to do that. So yes, we collect data. We try to know as much as possible who we are interacting with, both in terms of members of the Valletta Design Cluster and of visitors. And we try to have or embark on projects and events that may find their interest. And I'll tell you again a bit more about this in a minute.
Thank you. Mara, maybe something from on this topic?
Yeah,
from your
we're facing a lot of problems with data indicators because honestly we can't find a solution, especially on the social impact. But we have problem also in the assessment of CCI policies in general. And honestly, we try to afford this problem, to speak about this problem with the European Commission. They informally give us a feedback that let us understand that they are working on this problem, but we're facing a lot of problem. We are collecting a lot of data, but it's really difficult to analyze this data without any comparison with other areas. So it's really one of the main issue we have in the cultural and creative industries policies management.
Okay, so no solution, no easy solution, obviously, anywhere, but yeah, clear identification of the issue. Probably some of the projects will be working on that. I would say thank you for the participants to the panel at this stage. I see the time is advancing, and so thank you to Rasmus for his intervention. We'll probably work again together in the future. I understand that we have synergies. Thanks for today. Thanks for joining, and then we can move to the practical example, the presentations we have from the projects from the previous programming period. We have the representatives of two projects today with us, Design for Innovation and Cult Create, who will present what they did in local actions in the framework of their project. And we start with Andrea and with his experiences in Malta. So Andrea would give the floor to you, and you can start sharing your screen and giving your presentation if you'd like to.
Thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen now.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
It works fine. It's in the presentation mode and we can see it well.
Very good. Thank you very much. So thank you, Luc, and thank you, the team, for inviting me here today. Thank you, everyone else for coming. My name is Andrea Stegani. I am the creativity coordinator at the Valletta Design Cluster, which is a project of the Valletta Cultural Agency. And I'm going to introduce the project to you today, as well as our involvement in Design for Innovation. So the Valletta Design Cluster was a former flagship project of Valletta 2018, European Capital of Culture in 2018, one of the two projects that were selected to hold the title in 2018. And now it is managed and administered by the Valletta Cultural Agency, which is a public body under the local Ministry for Culture. It is a community space for cultural and creative practice. As you can see, communities are a very first word in our tagline. When we say community, we refer to, yes, cultural and creative practitioners, but also environmentalists, social activists, and more stakeholders that I'm going to go into in a minute. It's also a project that is supported and has been supported for a few years now by European and local funds, specifically kind of the main bulk of funds came from the ERDF. So there was a 10.4 million euro investment into the restoration and regeneration of the old slaughterhouse of Valletta to turn it into the Valletta Design Cluster. Going back into communities, at the moment, our communities, or the communities, going back to the data that I was mentioning a moment ago, the communities that we are aware of count about 600 people. We have around 85 members that are actively using the premises of the cluster, either by using shared facilities or more private facilities. And then we have a database of around 450 people to 500. I don't have the very latest data that are following us on our platform. So they subscribe to our platform and community to be updated on events and on developments of the project. Hopefully maybe to become members later on. As I was saying, we cover a broad variety of areas. So we have culture and creativity, we have food, we have making and design, social entrepreneurship, environment and placemaking, and societal well-being. This is because when my colleagues started developing the project back in 2010, they wanted to create a space that was missing, that would be a point of interaction for not only artists and designers, but also for the local community of residents, for example, for people that are interested in solving or tackling social issues, for environmentalists, for activists, because we believe that there can be a spark, an idea that can come out of an interaction. There can be projects that can be developed together. So what we do is we try to gather together different practitioners, encourage their meetups and them working on projects within our facilities. Here you can see a little bit about what our practitioners, what our communities are interested in or are active in. So you have a good bunch of them that are active in making, artistic and creative practice. A lot of them are interested in international collaborations. In fact, we also have programs that are for exchange. So we host international practitioners, and we are working on sending members of our community to partner organizations, for example. And then we have a lot of them that are interested in education and training. I would say that data show that we are still a bit weak on food and culinary practice. One of the facilities is a kitchen, it is a training kitchen. So we also have a lot of startups and people that are interested in developing a business in food that are using here. But I think we can, for example, strengthen that that aspect. Of course, we don't forget about the residents that live around here. The space is immersed in a very dense urban fabric. So we have a lot of people living around here. The process of creating the Valletta Design Cluster also entailed constant consultation with them, just to make sure that they're not, left behind and forgotten, but they can be part and they can have an active role in the development of the concept. They sometimes don't interact in events. Here you can see what is on our platform. So some of them may not be part of our online database, but they prefer maybe having a more face-to-face, interaction. They may be, in the street, or they may visit the place, and that's kind of how we keep in touch with them, and we encourage them to make use of our space. Here you can see some of them. So I'm going to go into the detail of the premises in a minute. You have the roof garden. I can actually show it now. You can have, or members can have access to the maker space, the co-working space, studios, food space, roof garden, meeting rooms, and international project labs. These are the spaces that were created within the cluster. We tried to keep the layout and the purpose of each space as open as possible. So in most of the rooms, you will find a standard setup, but that can also change in the sense that, for example, you have chairs, or you have tables, you have facilities that can kind of be packed and go. This is because we wanted to keep an open mindset towards the whole concept and the whole space. The maker space is essentially a lab for small-scale fabrication on paper, on plastic, on metal. We have a co-working space, which kind of follows the principle of hot desking, I would say. Studios are 15 rooms that we have on the first floor, and they target practitioners and entities that need a longer kind of presence in the cluster, that don't only make use of that room as their studio, as their office, but also they make use of the other facilities that are listed here. The roof garden, sorry, I skipped the food space. The food space is a space that we have on the ground floor. It's made of 2 kitchens that are training kitchens. The roof garden is on the top of the building. It's an open space, so it's open to all communities, the general public. The meeting rooms are 6 meeting rooms that we have, and can also be converted into, for example, workshop spaces. And international project labs are 2 townhouses that are adjacent to the main building. Here you can see some photos of the space. Projects. So as I was saying, the Valletta Design Cluster building was regenerated thanks to ERDF funds for the regeneration of Lower Valletta. This was not the only action that was implemented thanks to that project. In fact, there are others that are also part of the regeneration of the same part of the capital city of Malta. We have Design for Innovation, for example. I just listed a few here. Design for Innovation that I'm going to cover a bit like in a moment. Also, I'm saying that I don't have much time, so I'm going to kind of rush through these a bit. We are part of the IT network, thanks to EIT Urban Mobility and the Hub of Malta, together with the Malta College for Science, Arts and Technology and Project Eagle Foundation. We have partnered up with the Enterprise Europe Network, thanks to the Malta Business Bureau, on a creative entrepreneurship course. We have participated in other projects such as Deus, which was an Erasmus Plus project. And of course, as I briefly mentioned earlier, we also organize several events and projects to support the growth of our communities of practice and of residents as well. I think there is, a second, yes, okay. Design for Innovation, it was a project that was funded by Interreg Europe. It lasted between 2017 and 2022. Basically, the goal was to support SMEs in partner regions by designing user-centered approaches and measures to influence policymaking. The Valletta Design Cluster or the development of the community of the Valletta Design Cluster was one of the actions that was part of our design action plan as Valletta Cultural Agency. Essentially, Design for Innovation was instrumental in developing our communities, understanding them. We had a lot of meetings and meetups and workshops with the communities to better understand what their needs would be when we were developing the project, when we were thinking, what could we have in this space? You know, should we have this kind of material or that kind of material? Design for Innovation really helped us build, you know, more knowledge about what our community wanted. And I still have, I think, 20 seconds. So I'm, just because I put on a timer, I'm leaving you with a quote from Edward de Bono, who is a very well-known Maltese researcher that studies a lot creative thinking. So I thought of leaving this here, since we are talking about creativity and culture, and here you can find my email address and where to find more information about the Valletta Design Cluster and Design for Innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for that. And very interesting place, which I would love to see at some point. Do you already have some first experiences in new activities generated? What is happening? What kind of businesses are developing within the place?
So essentially, we opened in 2021. So I didn't mention that there was a long process to kind of recreate the space, in the sense that the building was in a very bad state when we started working on it. Essentially, it was abandoned, and so first the architect and the workers needed to clean the building and make it safe, and then they added the additional kind of facilities to make it functional and to transform it into a design cluster. As I mentioned in the presentation, we have tried to kind of meet the requirements of our communities. We have tried to listen to them and provide them as much as possible with the experience and the connections they were after, or they are after. The events and the projects that we usually embark on link to the areas that I mentioned in the presentation. So usually it's culture and creativity, it's environment, it's societal well-being, it's entrepreneurship, it's food, placemaking, and urban planning. I would say that we try to offer a mix of opportunities for the community to develop, so educational and training opportunities, as well as events that showcase best practices. Also thanks to the international collaborations that we have. For example, I'm remembering one of the recent meetings that we had in 2022 of Design for Innovation. We had the consortium coming over to Malta together with their stakeholders. And that was a great, for a design talk, essentially one of our events, one of our collateral events of the meeting was a design talk on service design. And our communities really enjoy it, being able to be exposed, you know, to international practitioners that are active in that specific area.
And are you able to offer more dedicated support, like for startups, like coaching, individual coaching, access to funding, and things like this? Are you?
Usually, when it comes to that, we tend to partner up. So either with members of the community itself. So, for example, if there's a specific need that we see is kind of felt by numerous members of the community, we tend to issue a call. We tend to ask our community if anyone can help on a specific matter, or we partner up with other entities that can be public or private entity, who may be able to support, you know, the specific stakeholders or community members. You mentioned, I believe, support to startups. So we had a partnership with the Malta Business Bureau in 2021 and 2022 that covered a course for creative startups that needed mentoring and coaching. So in that case, both the members of the Valletta Design Cluster and of the Motor Business Bureau created this course, and we had, I believe, 10 local startups that were supported through that course. Just as an example.
Thank you. And then maybe a closing question. I think in the chat, I cannot see any questions right now, Mart. Otherwise, you just jump in. In terms of funding, is it running completely on public funding, or is it rented places?
Most of it, yes, in the sense that we receive an yearly budget every year from the local Ministry of Finance through the Ministry for Culture. But then we also are partners in a few EU projects. So we receive part of the funding from there, and we also receive a bit of funding from the members as they have to pay membership fee. Of course, we try to keep the fees as low as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Also because we're a public project, but that's more or less how we are funded. And of course, we're always on the lookout for new collaborations. So in case anyone from the audience would like to reach out to me or to the project to work on international projects, we're more than happy to consider any requests.
Thank you, Andrea. We will close here for today, but you were kind enough to give your contact details also in the presentation. So, and they will be available also in the learnings of the meeting. So people can contact you directly, of course, also in case of questions or ideas.
I'm going to add maybe the link, my email address in the chat as well.
You can please do that. Please do that. Yeah, you can do that so people can get it directly. Thank you, Andrea. And then we move a little bit, not too far, but a little bit north to Italy and to Chiara and Federica. I think Chiara, you will be starting with the presentation, so you are welcome to share your screen and to start sharing your experience. You need to go in presentation mode still. Yeah, it works. We can see it. We can see it. Please go on.
Full screen? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm now presenting our pilot action that was awarded during the CalCreate project from Veneto region. It's not moving. Okay. Old-fashioned now. Okay. During the action plan, we addressed the literally induced tourism, the film tourism, and the music tourism. And then we decided to implement a pilot action on the music tourism. Why? Because we noticed that Padova has a rich, very rich music scene. There are many enterprises, many associations, and they're all promoting cultural and creative workshops. But we noticed, like we acknowledge, a strong lack of coordination, lack of planning, and a lack of connection. So we try to promote a new business idea developed through a participatory process involving actual and potential stakeholders. Those actors appear to be very sensitive about those needs, and actually there was lots of interest during the action plan working. And we can say that the TRL of the product was quite high because there were lots of seeds that we just allowed growing. This is the pilot action process in the bigger picture. If you can concentrate in the middle column, there are listed the activities of the pilot action. So first we had an introductory meeting with the CalCreate, so the project as stakeholders, both on the CCI and general SMEs. We then introduced the context of the action plan as a focus of the pilot action as a focus of the action plan. Sorry, and then we verified and mapped the place of music in Padua. Then we visit Cremona, which is already a best practice, well-known best practice. And then we had for co-design operative workshop, we had a test on the ground. And then we have the evaluation phase, because again, the policy needs an evaluation. And then we can report an upscale of the results in the current regional program. So the visit to Cremona was very effective, because we started with a guided tour of the city, and then in the afternoon we visit a museum, and then we met with the Councillor of Tourism, the head of the Promotion and Tourism Reception Service, and the head of the Promotional Activity Office of the Chamber of Commerce. Which means in Cremona, there is a system already built. We end the day with a visit in a shop of a violin maker. So we had also the creativity part of the event, but the takeaway message was that the quadruple helix can be set up and can actually work. The co-designing workshops were basically meant to design the product, the actual product. So the first workshop was divided in 3 stages. So first we start by identifying the priorities of the musical tourist destinations in Padua. And then we mapped all the locations which are music related. So beyond museums. And then we defined a shared potential calendar with the main music event organizers. So again, we have at the same table different stakeholders and different operators of the tourism sector, the musical tourism sector. The second participatory workshop practically addressed the definition of target, and with targets we actually mean customer. So we started with the DMO strategy, which sets the identification of Padua as a city of art. So again, music tourism is very coherent with the strategies, and it actually fits very well. Then, so our target were the 3 level, let's say, of music lover. So the incidental, so people coming to Padua, not for music reason, but maybe for business or sports or other activities. And then we have the motivated, and then we have the enthusiast or the very expert music. So people looking for a higher level of experience in a music product. Then we point out in the definition of the product, the product characteristic, let's say, the technical specification. So whether the product should be addressed to group or individual tourists, whether it should be guided or self-managed, which can be the ideal duration according to the customer, and then which should be the price according to the cost, and draft of eventual the frequency or the seasonality of each product. The product development was also put in relation with the attractive factor for the incidentals and motivated targets. So in order to create a system to develop and exploit the music tour. The third operative workshop was the meeting point between operators and DMO. So in this, we developed a technical sheet for the guided Padova music tour. So we decided action, actors, costs, and the financial support, the possible financial support, and also the timing. We issued like a fish, very comprehensive, all these features. Again, here we have at the very same table all the different stakeholders involved in music tourism and the music offer in Padua. So the Tartini Association, the Bartolomeo Cristofori Association, and the DMO, the Padua Convention Bureau, which is basically responsible for the selling and promotion of the product. The main point is tackling how guides are structuring the product for tourists again, and how to link this presentation with the DMO portal. Also, very concrete issues like how to book this tour was addressed. So actually we designed an interactive platform to sell an actual business product. Here I will handle the floor, I will pass the floor to Federica if I can. Here.
Thank you, Chiara. Okay. So the fourth workshop is the last one of the co-design phase. Here you can see our guides and the director of the Bartolomeo Cristofori Festival presenting the tour and how the pilot has actually helped them to develop the tour and create connections among them. But the development of the tour is not the pilot action didn't end with the development of the tour. In fact, we also monitored the results, both with an expert focus group and surveys to participants. So the main results of the expert focus groups is that actually the products really helped in the connection of the different stakeholders, not only from music CCIs, but also with other sectors, for especially tourism. So in this way, synergies between the two the two sectors were established, and this was really useful for music and CCIs to broaden a little bit the target of their activities. In fact, usually their events, their guided tour, their experiences are targeted to a niche that is quite difficult to reach. Whilst with the involvement of the organization that is in charge of the managing of tourism in the city, it was really helpful for them. On the other hand, we also surveyed participants to understand what were their impression of the tour, and we saw that not many of them were familiar with the two main figures around which the tour is developed. Tartini, the composer, and Bartolomeo Cristofori, piano inventor, born in Padova. In addition, what was really appreciated is the mix of the different experiences that were actually involved in the tour. So the first part of the guided tour, then the listening of the concert, and also the visit to local workshops. So I think this is a really example of how the two sectors can benefit some ways to each other with a win-win situation where the CCIs can promote the products to a different target, and on the same moment the DMO can offer new experiences and differentiate its product to position itself in a different way on the market. So it's really a win-win situation for both. We were happy to present the results of the project in one of the best conference hall of Padova, together with the other experts. And just to say a little bit more words about the tour, there's a first part where the guides actually tell the history of the music that participants are going to listen to, not just inside a conference music hall, but working to the history. And then there's a part of listening to music and also a visit to artisans' shops. So participants can actually see how the instruments that they're going to see on stage are made. But the best way to present you the tour, I think, is to try to bring you to Padova for just 1 minute. Hopefully you're able to visit that in the future. So I will present you a video, and the audio is in Italian, but you can follow it with subtitles.
Che cos'è Padova Music Tour? È un tour che cerca di mettere al centro la musica a seconda di tutti quelli che sono stati i secoli in cui Padova è stata protagonista ed ha avuto passaggi e incursioni, ma anche presenze che hanno parlato di musica. Il tour parte dalla fontana di Prato della Valle, si sofferma sulla statua dedicata a Tartini, arriva alla Basilica del Santo, fino a toccare anche la chiesa di Santa Maria dei Servi ed avere come ultimo punto un arrivo in cattedrale, nella zona del Duomo, che è stata sotto diversi aspetti un luogo che ha accolto sia la figura di Tartini, ad esempio, sia quella di Bartolomeo Cristofori, nato proprio nella zona. Questo è un po' il riassunto di quello che noi pensiamo di poter iniziare attraverso il progetto CalCreate a portare alla nostra città.
Thank you for watching. So this is not, the tour itself is not the only results that we achieved through the participatory process, which actually was hit by COVID. So technology helped us to, in the first phase of the project, to address the issues through a collaborating platform. And so what else? Some other outcomes are the brochure on music tourism in Padova, which was developed to promote CCIs based on what emerged during the participatory process. Then a dedicated map with the music point of interest in the city. And now the tourism the tours are part of the DMO's programs. This is a seasonal tour, so you will find it only in spring. But now I will give back the floor to Chiara and Mara to talk about the upscaling of the results on the RDF. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe just 1 or 2 minutes, because we are coming close to the end of the webinar. Chiara, you can.
Here I am. Okay, the main point. Here.
It works. Go on.
It works great. So during the whole project, there was a close collaboration with our colleagues from the cultural and tourism departments, the both of them, to upscale their pilot results. First things first, we had the previous ERDF ROP included a call for proposal for CCI in tourism sector, so starting from cultural towards tourism. And then the actual ERDF RFP includes now new action for cultural-based urban regeneration. So again, the impact on social impact is addressed and recognized, and also for border areas development. And then the program confirms the action for CCI's innovation and the audiovisual production. including a new budget line for UNESCO site management. And last but not least, we had an updating of the Veneto S3 strategy, improving the cultural and creative priorities. The former S3 strategy considers CCI only as like technical instruments for culture. Now it's the culture itself part of the smart specialization strategy. I don't know how to go on with the presentation, but as there are a couple of sites at the end of the PowerPoint.
We can see them. We can see them. It's
okay,
fine.
perfect.
And they will be available for the participants.
Yes, for everybody. But you can Google and find everything you need, and that's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chiara. Thank you, Federica. Thank you, Mara, also for being with us and in the background. It's already 3:30, so we don't have really time today for questions. We need to close, but you had an extensive presentation. It was very detailed presentation of the action. So I think we could understand what was happening. That was very useful. Thank you for that. I will be just on a personal note. I will be in Padova by the end of March. I'm not sure if it will be active already or it's not really spring. So I will check. Okay. So let's see. Check the website of DMO.
Yeah, I will check. And so thank you for being with us. And before closing, I will just show one or two slides on upcoming events from our side. So without going into too many details, so to remember, I mentioned at the beginning on the 15th of March until 9th June, there will be the second call for proposal from Interreg Europe, and you've seen the relevant topics. Clearly, topics on cultural, creative industries and social innovation will be eligible. And I will also mention our next events. Colleagues of us are organizing beginning of March a webinar on innovation vouchers, and I would like to highlight also the Europe Let's Cooperate event, the annual event of the Interreg Europe program, which will take place on 15th of March in Stockholm, and you can register for this event from the Interreg Europe website. And a bit further in time, end of May, beginning of June, we expect to have a workshop, an on-site workshop in Ghent, in Belgium, dedicated to spaces for innovation, spaces for entrepreneurship, and where you might be interested to join, and you will be informed as former project partners in Interreg project. You will be informed directly, some of the speakers, or for those who are not involved, we've seen many of the participants are not involved, you will be able to follow the news from and the announcements from the Interreg Europe website. Thank you to all our speakers and to all of our participants. When we will close the webinar, a survey will pop up, and it would be very great. It's helpful for us if you could just take a few seconds to help us. And within 1 week, roughly, you will be informed. The recording and some summary of the event will be available from the Interreg Europe website. Thanks again, and have a great day. Looking forward to seeing you in further events of the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.